Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. Steve, good morning, man.
Good morning, Sean. Good to see your smiling face.
Dude, I love looking at a smiling face as well. I like to see yours. And hey, for those that don't know Steve out there, Steve just finished one of the gnarliest foot races there is, called the Tahoe 200. We'll get into that. And it's funny. I want to tell everyone about how I met Steve real quick. And I was out in Lake Tahoe for the summer last year with my buddy Jason Hine, who was the first episode on this podcast. And we signed up for an ultra marathon, a killer in the mountains. I called my friend Rob. We were just chatting, and he goes, "Oh, my friend Steve's out in Lake Tahoe, and he's a runner. You guys should just link up." So I was like, "Oh, Steve, like, I'm friends with this guy, Rob, who says you guys are friends. Like, let's grab a beer or let's take a run, whatever you want." And he was like, "Yeah." You were like, "Yeah," making small talk. You're like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Well, we're here to run ultra marathon." You're like, "When?" I told you the date. It was like 6 days away, and you're like, "Oh, I'll still be here. I'll run with you." And you just signed up and ran it, and you killed it, dude.
Yeah, that was great. And I remember Rob telling me about you guys as well. And I want to say, Sean, that your and Emma's lifestyle has been super inspiring to my wife, Ann, and I. And I just feel like you're doing it right. And I'm excited to talk to you about how we're modeling our life, not necessarily after yours, but in a similar fashion.
Oh, first of all, I appreciate that. Probably too high of praise, but we can talk about that. I mean, I don't know if everyone listening is going to be aware, but I live remotely right now. I'm in a small town in the Dolomites in northern Italy. It's actually a German town, even though it's in Italy,
Wow.
called Bozen. It's not that small. Bolzano's the town, but we're up in kind of like Oberbozen is where we've been spending most of our time. Or every town has an Italian and German name because it's in Italy, but it's literally a German town. So Oberbozen's German name, Soprabolzen is the Italian name. But yeah, we live remotely. Honestly, got to thank some people in my life that make it easy. Technology makes it easy. Yeah, we can dive into why we're living like this, and your big move to Hawaii coming up.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, when and you guys were just on the Big Island as well, correct?
Yeah, and I think like really close to where you were, Kona side, but up the mountain a little bit.
Yep. So that's where we're going to be moving next year, and that's actually a pretty cool. I'll tell you the genesis story of that. So Ann and I went to Hawaii about I'd say 2018, 2019 timeframe, and we always kind of knew we wanted to live somewhere warm because we're just such outdoor people, and living where you can kind of commune with nature a little bit more seemed to be up our alley. But we immediately recognized that that was the place that we wanted to be. And it was one of those moments where we just kind of looked at each other like a goosebump moment. And we made the decision that we were going to set a 5-year goal to move to Kona. And since that moment, we've pretty much been a mind meld of how are we going to get this done. And even since then, we figured out a way to shave that down to 4 years. So June 2023, when our kids get done with school, we'll be moving over there.
Dude, I have so much. First, I want to congratulate you. But second of all, there's so much to unpack there about your beautiful intuition, right? Because a lot of people don't know what they want. Goal setting and chasing it. And then also, I want to understand the why behind it. You kind of talked about that a little. I will say, you're for obviously everyone understands you're a trail runner now. there's some good trails out there. And when you get there, I'm going to introduce you to two people, Steve. One guy's name is Swimmer Steve. Okay. Swimmer Steve was an Olympic swimmer coach, and he trains people in the Kona Ironman. And if you want to get into the Ironman, he is the swimming guy.
He's the
So
guy.
he
Huh?
can get you
Okay.
right on swimming, and you'll just need to. I know running's easy for you. You just got to get on the bike.
Right.
I think I don't want to downplay what people do on the bike at all, but I think the bike is more just hours. Like just get on the bike, and where like swimming I feel like is form. I feel like the bike's more just like just get the time in, the training.
Yeah, the swimming makes me feel uncomfortable. It's a bit scary, and that's why I know it's something that I need to do. And that's kind of been
Yeah.
my mantra with the ultras as well, is let's see how far I can get myself out of my comfort zone and basically just crush it, right? And when I'm able to complete those tasks or missions or goals, whatever you want to call them, there's a certain confidence that comes from that really has spilled over into so many different areas of my life. And that's what makes the ultras kind of addictive for me.
Yeah. Tell me about that specifically, the confidence aspect. So, obviously it helps with confidence of your next run, but I want to hear like what you mean by confidence that spills over into like the rest of your life.
Well, I'm a Goggins fan, so I'm gonna kind of borrow something from him called the cookie jar. You might be familiar with that. So when
Yes,
you
sir.
when you do something really hard and accomplish that, it's like a little virtual medal that you can hang in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And then when you're faced with adversity in other areas of your life, it's like, geez, this is really hard. Oh, but so was running that 200 miler, and I completed that. So if I can do that thing, I know that I can do this, And so I think you can stack accomplishments on top of one another. They don't have to be major life milestones. It could be just little things, but the more consecutive successes you can get in a row, I think it just accelerates your growth as a person.
And consecutive successes. I mean, you kind of just mean like, just like keep putting challenges in front of you and, trying to tick them off, or at least, fail trying your hardest.
Absolutely. That's how I got to 200 miles to start with. So in 2018, I got peer pressured into doing a 25K trail run, and I completed that. And I was actually had fun. I was pretty good at it. And at the back of my mind, I was thinking, I wonder how far I could run. Let's just continue to sign up for races that are the next level up in distance and see at what point I fail. And so in 2019, I did a 50K and a 50 miler. And then 2020, I did a 100K. And then 2021, I ran my first 100 miler. And this year I ran a 200 miler. I didn't spend too much time at any one distance. I've just kind of, bypassed all that and went straight for the longest distances I could find. And I have another longer goal in mind for next year as well. So
Tell me it.
oh, all right. Well, I'm unleashing this publicly into the world now. So the goal is I want to set the fastest known time for an unsupported circumnavigation of the Big Island of Hawaii. So there is a route that is established. Actually, it's called the Go Big 260.
240.
So
Or 260.
or two, yeah. So yeah, it's somewhere in there, but yeah, it's somewhere around 250, 260 miles.
I know every bit of that trail, every mile. It's a fun one.
Yeah, it just seems something challenging. It's a distance that's further than I've ever done before, and I really do enjoy these multi-day stage type of runs.
Yeah.
It's just different type of strategic planning when it comes to gear and nutrition and sleep. And then in Hawaii, you're exposed to a lot of elements. So yeah, it's going to be a super cool challenge. And you know what? If you go to the FKT website, no one has actually done it unsupported with no crew. So regardless of how long it takes me, I'll still have the fastest known time.
Amazing. You should connect with Jason Hine. He's trying to set the fastest known time on the JMT trail in about 45 days.
Wow.
No less,
Yeah.
30 days. Ooh.
Jason's next level, man. I definitely admire everything that he's doing.
Yeah. So most people hearing this are saying 240 miles, you're crazy. I'm an ultra runner and you're crazy. But let's really like dive into this and talk about like the lessons that you can pull from it. So give me an example of a time that you maybe were a little stressed or a little needed to put your hand in the cookie jar, right? And pull something out. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic example, but maybe just something that people can relate to.
Well, I don't know if people can relate. We'll be able to relate too much to this, but I'm an entrepreneur and a business owner, and
Yeah.
anytime I'm going through stressful situations in business, if things are getting dicey, it brings out that kind of competitive nature in me, where I don't just run and hide, or duck for cover kind of thing. I know that if I apply myself and I'm resourceful, and I push myself to my limits, that I'm going to ultimately succeed in the end. It's just about knowing what you want and then having an action plan on how you're going to go about getting that. So,
And
fear is a motivator, right? And I think there's a lot of people that avoid situations where it's going to elicit fear or stress. And I think the reason why is they're just afraid of failure and they're afraid of rejection. I don't know how you feel about that, but once you can figure out how to get past that and just be authentically yourself, and I guess tune out the naysayers, life becomes different. You don't view failure quite the same way, and that fear kind of starts to go away. But you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right?
yeah.
That's not something that just comes naturally to people. The human brain subconsciously will always seek safety and comfort. So
Yep.
how do you get to a place where it feels comfortable? Is just exposure over and over again. Sorry, that was a really rambling response, John.
No, I'm just letting it set in with me. No, it was extremely cohesive. And there's two things there. There's fear and then comfort and then discomfort. We'll start with fear because that one I think people talk about less, and I'll say it resonates with me a little bit more, right? If you asked me when I was 8 years old what I want to be, NFL player, NBA player, those are the only two options. Either one work, but NFL or NBA, right?
Yeah.
If you ask, I remember my uncle asking me when I was 19 years old, freshman in college, Sean, like, what are you looking to do? And I was like, honestly, like, I want to make a ton of money doing what I love and then freeing up my time and figuring out what to do from there. He said, what's a ton of money to? I was like, minimum 3-4 million a year. And if I was being honest with you, I think I should make much more than that. But really, like when I think about it now, because like you're like older, like your fear sets in and you kind of like repress this stuff. And you're like, well, if I could just make enough to feel comfortable, it's like
Settling,
and I'm
right?
just using right. You're settling, and it doesn't have to be about money at all, and you can change. But like, is that really what you want? Because life, you get one shot. Fucking go after it, right? Like,
That's
what
right,
do you
brother.
really want? And I've realized that it was in Hawaii when I realized that I've been living fearfully, and I've been taking all my like it's even little stuff like this, like you said, being yourself. I've been taking all my podcasts sitting in a chair. I don't take any work calls sitting in a chair. This is my podcast. If someone's not going to watch it because I'm sitting cross-legged on a couch, then I lost a listener. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I'm like I just rocked for 22 miles this morning in the mountains. I need to sit and let like my body reset on a flat surface, not sit in a chair. So I love this idea about fear, but I still let fear creep in. And I'll ask you a question that really is in your, world. And it's, I've done 3 50-milers, 2 50Ks. I think, all 5 of them have been top 10 finishes. So I've done
Yeah.
fairly well. And I haven't signed up for 100. And I was talking to Emma about today, like, I need to sign up for 100-miler. Steve, I'm 210 pounds. That's a big runner.
Yep.
I have this feel in my head that like it won't be good for my knees or my back or something. So I said, Sean, instead of being fear-based, like this is the longest question you've ever been asked. I said, Sean, instead of being fear-based, like research it. And there's no research around running being bad for your knees. It's good for your knees. It promotes blood flow, like, and of course, running with good form and not just running straight into it and having good shoes and things like that. So I still haven't signed up for 100, let alone done one. So I'd love to understand how people can work through fear, and feel free to use me as an example, because I'll hopefully take your advice and get through it and sign up for one.
Sure. Yeah, I would, man, let me just say, I am still feel fear. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Like, but courage is not the absence of fear. It's knowing the fear, sitting in it, and then doing the thing anyway, right?
Yes, sir.
So there's just got to be that point where you just sign up and then make it public knowledge that you signed up, and sign that social contract, and then just go about the training. Like it's a just do it moment.
So kind of get out of your head.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, definitely people that excel at the sport that are bigger than you, and you probably have better genetics and you train harder than a lot of people that I've seen running. Evidenced by the fact that you have only done a few of these and you're already finishing on a podium. So that's pretty rad. But I have a question for you. Do you think that, or do you believe in like the biological basis of fear from like a social standpoint, where let me walk you through this here. So I guess the thought process is people are afraid to be themselves and afraid to fail because they think it's going to affect their social standing and thereby limit their resources or their influence within a tribe, so to speak.
Yep. Dude, what a great question. I believe in it. And here's the twisted thing. I believe that is something people deal with. I don't believe there's value in that, but subconsciously I fall into the trap.
Oh yeah, everybody does. Anyone that's on social media most likely does. Falls into the same trap. The more that I've realized that when I can stand in my, I guess, authentic power and know what my unique medicine is that I have to serve to the world, and just being unapologetically Steve, though that feeling is better than any drug. Like that is just such an incredible feeling. And the move to Hawaii is a great example of that, right? Oh, what are my employees going to think? What about my family? And it's about me. Being me is not a selfish thing. Finding happiness for myself is the most important thing that I can do. So I'm sorry if that doesn't align with someone else's version of how they think I'm supposed to be, but that doesn't matter anymore. Like that is just a free ingredient.
Dude, I'm so happy for you, man. And we talked about this the night that we were camping out for the last ultra, which is just like a month ago. And you were telling me like, you had people on your team and that were like worried about it. And for those out there that are dealing with something they're trying to work through, I do want to use Steve as an example, if you don't mind, of how awesome you played this, because Steve owns a pretty decently sized company and is the head of it, right? So him moving, he has children, right? Like I appreciate you saying you model after me. It's just me and Emma. I have a little ass backpack. I just bounce around. Life's easy. All my company's remote. You have a brick and mortar location. You have a family. You have family in the area, right? Even where I was living in Wisconsin, I don't have family for 1,000 miles. So I just moved, right? But like you were faced with huge problems. You said, my employees, I remember you said, my employees love when I walk around the office. It's like, okay, well then how can you overcome that problem? So you're bringing on a general manager who's going to be that guy walking around the office. And you told me I will be coming back with some regularity to try and circumvent that. And like, you know,
Yeah,
it's like, I think people shut things down to protect themselves so they don't fail, right? It's like, I'm not even going to
absolutely.
try because whatever. And dude, I just think there's always like where there is a will, there is absolutely a way. And I'll say that is something that I've learned from running as well. You know, it's a great teacher. I mean, uh, and it's funny. There's no amount of practice that's enough with these like mindset things because Steve, on Tuesday, uh, I did something that Jason Hine used to do every week when we lived in northern Canada. Pointed to a mountain and said, I'm going to stand on top of that this afternoon. See you guys. And just did it. So I stepped outside here. There's huge mountains around us. And I literally pointed to the biggest one. I was like, Emma, I'm going to be up there. Like a dumbass, I went with no food and only a banana in me. And it was brutal, dude. I was running for 4 hours to get to the top. And you know, like an hour in, I'm like, I don't have water, I don't have food. Like maybe I just turn around. And it's like that, you know, you're trying to like, you know, just find reasons to like make you feel good about like quitting.
Yeah, well, and that might have been one if your safety was compromised, but I'm glad you're okay and that you made it. Assuming you made it to the top, right?
I made it to the top, and it really wasn't. It really wasn't because I did have a cell phone, which has Apple Pay, and there's a couple little markets. The mountains here are crazy. It's not like the US. Like you'll find like a little like restaurant or something. When I tell you in the middle of the mountains, Steve, I mean in the middle of the mountains or like a hut.
Yeah.
Um, and they have cell phone service everywhere in the mountains. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of, and the signage is better. But anyways, you know what like what I was kind of getting to was I was trying to like find a reason. Like I kept finding reasons not
Oh
to. I
yeah.
kept saying like maybe I'd come back early and spend more time with Emma. I already told her I was doing this, like, and she's fine with it. I was like, maybe I do work. Like, no, I already committed to this. It's just
Oh,
the mind.
100%, man. Those doubts are going to creep in there. And the way you, I think, overcome those is making sure that your why is strong enough. You
Yeah,
know, if you have a strong enough why, you're going to overcome all those obstacles, you know, and like with the move, it was daunting. You know, how do I replace myself in this company and afford, how can I get the business to a position where it can afford that person? There's a 5 hour time difference. How am I going to deal with that? Oh, my kids are moving to a new culture where the school systems might be different. They might be a minority. What's that going to look like? My wife's Anne. She's a business owner as well. She's a yoga teacher and a breath work facilitator and a fitness instructor. Well, we all knew her business was going to be great in Hawaii, but there's all these
yeah.
like what if scenarios, right? So just coming up with a roadmap and a plan, and the why was definitely strong enough. Like, and like you said, we only get this one life. Why are we not all running towards our wildest dreams? Like our hair is on fire, right? What's holding us back? Find out what's holding you back and really strengthen that why. And I think anything is truly achievable.
You're a cool dude, man. You're a cool dude. Steve, don't forget, let's call me after this. I have actually, I said to in the beginning, 4 really good connections that I want to connect you with. A life coach who is going to be at the same gym I would recommend. Swimmer Steve, I got the guy who owns this guy who owns like a mushroom supplement company right in Kona, and then a guy who owns the biggest snorkeling company and gets you on to all the cool snorkeling trips. And that's,
Oh,
dude, we made
that's
some good connections there.
that's awesome. We definitely need to talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyways, I do have a favor to ask you, and if you could tell me the best story that came from your 200-mile run, I would love, or the story of the 200-mile run. I would love to hear it.
Sure, I'll give you a quick race report on that one. So I trained for 9 months for this race. Essentially, I had to sign up for the race before I ever actually completed a 100-miler because of the lottery deadlines for the 200, but it was already baked into my plan. I'm going to run 100 and then I'm going to run a 200. So had to have the confidence that I was going to do okay in the 100, because by the time that came around, it was, I had to sign up and throw my name in the hat for the 200. So I get through this 9 months of training, which was grueling, 6 days a week, without exception. I did not compromise my training at all. I hired a coach a couple of years back, and she helped me design a bulletproof training plan that kept me injury free, and kept me on track with, weekly miles. And there was hiking training. And this was through the winter. I mean, we're talking, I think the coldest it got during one of my training runs was -15. So like,
Yeah.
no excuses. I got the training done, get out to Tahoe at least a week early. Just kind of, I've been out there, 4 or 5 times and absolutely love the Tahoe area. So did a little bit of training on the course, started to acclimate to the altitude of the race. And, that morning when it started, I just remember like turning off my brain essentially and just going. I had everything pre-packed, ready to go. And it's like, I'm not even going to think about 200 miles, because if you try to think about it as one continuous race, your brain will explode. So I knew that the first aid station was 10.6 miles from the start. And so all that was on my brain was, I'm going to go out super slow and I'm going to get to that first aid station and then worry about getting from there to the next one. And I think on average, there's an aid station about every 18 miles or 20 miles or something like that. But of course, you get on the course and the adrenaline kicks in, and I go out way too fast and get caught in a group of people that are running. I mean, we're doing like, I think my fastest mile was like 10-minute mile or something. And
Which is lightning for that.
Oh yeah, we don't want to be there. Of course, we were going downhill. But yeah, the race was essentially between aid stations, you go up and down a mountain. So total elevation gain and loss was 70,000 feet for the race. So literally just up and down mountains, not many flat areas, but
which is like, what's the Empire State Building is 1,000. I always like to say, because people know it. So that's like climbing that 70 times, everybody.
Yeah, that's
the one we ran in Tahoe over 50K was like 8,000, I think, and that was brutal. 70, my quads are sore already.
Yeah, it was pretty intense with the climbing, but I'm so good at hard hiking. Like a big chunk of my training's been dedicated to getting really good at hiking, with weight on my back. But anyway, yeah, I worked my way to through the first 100 in 36 hours. Which is not bad, but I didn't sleep at all during that time. And by the end of that, I was having some hallucinations, which I've never had visual hallucinations from sleep deprivation before. That was super.
Any major stops, or 36 hours of power hiking, running pretty continuous?
Yeah. I mean, I was probably averaging 15 to 20 minutes per aid station. I saw some people getting in and out of there in under 10, which was super impressive. But making sure that you get a lot of real whole food into you during a race like that is extremely important, because you got to eat a lot of calories for that amount of miles. So I would stop, I'd wash my feet, I'd change my socks, and I would eat at least 2 hot food items. And then I would take 2 hot food items to go and just shove them in my pockets. So I'm like,
dude,
hiking down the trail, eating hamburgers.
Yeah, talk to people that don't know. Like these aid stations, I think people think these aid stations like granola bar and a Gatorade cup. No, these aid stations on these like long runs are stacked. I remember the
Yes.
100 I ran with Jason. I had pancakes with bacon and syrup on my hand. It was dripping down my
Oh
arm.
yeah.
The lady's like, "Do you need a paper towel?" I'm like, "I'm great. I'm just gonna lick my arm. Like I'm fucking starving."
Yeah, made to order food sometimes. Like, what do you need? And it's like, oh, a double cheeseburger, and they're back there making it for you. So that was really cool. There was also sleep tents at this race if you needed to, and they had a full medical staff there to assess any injuries. So they Destination Trails does it right with their 200-mile races. They've got 3 different options for that. But yeah, I was seeing faces in trees and rocks, and I would be like hiking up to it, and it's like I'm telling myself, don't look at it again. But of course, you get really close to it and you look over, and the dang faces were still there. I thought maybe if I changed the angle, it would, nope, still seeing the faces. So finally got to sleep at the halfway point, slept for 3 hours. And I remember getting a text from Anne saying, congrats on the halfway point. You ready to do it again? And I'm just thinking, no, in the back of my mind, no, I'm not ready to do this again. And I essentially limped it back. So I took 30, what did I say, 36 hours on the way out.
Yeah.
And I think I took 60 hours on the way back. So my crew chief, Riley, just kept telling me, you've got time. You get the same belt buckle as the guy who wins this thing. You know, don't push yourself past a limit where you're going to have to drop out of the race. And that kind of gave me some comfort to slow it down. And I essentially just hiked back the second 100 miles. There was some running, but lots of hiking
Yeah.
and walking and sleeping. I think I ended up with 7 hours of sleep total.
Nice. So yeah, lots of sleeping. So 96 hours.
Yeah.
So 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 days of running.
At one point, I forgot I was in a race. Like, it's just like when your only goal is movement and trying to just put one foot in front of the other. I literally like, oh shoot, I'm in a race. Like someone, I hadn't seen anyone in a long time, and someone passed me. I was like, that's right. I'm actually in a timed event right now. I saw this other woman who was carrying this burrito in a bag, and she's forgot she had it in her hand. She was just carrying a burrito for hours.
Dude, that is wild. And it's so it obviously it crushed your body. I mean, I saw you a couple weeks after, but you came out pretty healthy, and you wanted to do it again and bigger and better. So what do you like? Trying to put yourself in an unbiased mindset the best you can. What do you think is the draw? It is the fact that you finished and completed it. Is that kind of part of the draw to go further? Because like you've already learned life lessons here, and you know, like if you push yourself on a hard 50K, you will learn a life lesson. Like you know, but what's really what's the driver to get this, like not only do another one but do another big one?
The multi-stage, multi-day races are just a completely different animal. It's almost a different sport. Like, for instance, I was below the median age or the average age for the runners in this race. And I'm turning 40 this year. So I think 43 was the average. It just draws a different crowd. And I don't know, it's kind of like you go through every stage of life or every range of emotions during one of these races, that it's just special. It's kind of hard to describe, to be honest. But there is a draw. And for me personally, getting those PRs, it's become something that I don't really know where to draw the line. But I think the 200-mile distance might be my distance, as weird as that sounds. But
it sounds as weird as you think, let me tell you.
I also think that I could get the same feelings from doing a through hike or maybe doing a long fast packing adventure. Like, I don't think it needs to be an organized race per se. It's more about prolonged time in nature that challenges me both physically and mentally. I think we could just kind of lump it into that category.
Yeah. There is something like raw and real about it. So I'm playing with an idea. So I'm writing a book. I'm writing this book slower than your limp back on the last 100 miles. This is a drawn out process. I'm speeding it up back half of this year. I'm saying it to the world.
All
I'm
right.
prioritizing it. It came from the idea of, okay, so we hear flow state, right? And you were drawn into the flow state a lot when you're like, just focus on the steps, right? Not the 200
Yeah.
miles, just focus on the steps and the running. We hear flow state talking about like surfers and drummers in the pocket soloing, and flow is like, you're completely, just like out of your mind, kind of, right? Like you're not focused on time, you're completely submerged in the event. You're not focusing on, am I doing it right or wrong? It's
Yes.
you're doing. And it's when we're the most like creative, like from a brain scan standpoint, it's when we're the most like happy and peaceful. And I want to understand how we can enhance our capacity for flow, because so humans like focus on building better habits, right? Habits are subconscious activities that we do repeatedly, right? Like a lot of us probably like wake up and like walk to the bathroom and like go to the bathroom, flush toilet, and then just naturally start brushing your teeth, and then go, and if you drink coffee, make coffee, like like everything's like kind of on repeat. Driving, and people say it needs to be that way because our brain only has so much capacity for like conscious, non-habitual thoughts, right? So we're operating from our subconscious, and that's why there's a big movement right now to have people build better habits, right? And I think that's good. I think that's great. But I think there's a level past that once you've mastered your compulsions and habits and your like subconscious behavior, how can you increase that capacity to have more conscious activity, more flow, which is not the same as flow state, but potentially open your capacity for flow state so you're living less habitually and more, in this conscious realm. I find that activities that draw my awareness in naturally build that. Now, I'm not a scientist. I need to. That's my big focus for this back half of the year, is to start diving into the neurology of it. But I don't know if that like kind of, if that was cohesive for you. But
Absolutely, man.
that's what draws me into some of these races, like and here's like the little tweak. So it wasn't like a little flex when I said, hey, I did this 4-hour run to the top of the mountain with no food and real water. The reason I wanted to do it was, as weird as it sounds, food and water is a little bit of a distraction. um and this even saying, no, for me, no watch, no cell phone when I run.
Yep.
This one, I thought I was gonna get lost. So what I did was I put my cell phone in a waistband, like in
Yep.
like this running belt I have, zipped it up,
Yes.
and I flipped it inside out. So it was gonna be pretty inconvenient for me to get my cell phone. So and then I ended up, not touching it except to take a picture at the top, which is a distraction. But also helps me kind of get the memory. But these things, it's not that they're bad, and I just need like a disclaimer out there, like I'm chugging water now, like food and water, like don't do anything unsafe. But I knew I could do this, and I knew I'd be hungry and very thirsty at the end. But those things would pull me out of the experience. Like I was not doing it for the physical; I was doing it for the mental, to keep me in the experience. Does that resonate with you at all?
Oh, absolutely does. Yeah, here's a breadcrumb for you for your book. Um, Look up some studies on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So essentially, what is motivating someone to do the things they do? And when the motivation is external in nature, so, oh, you want to climb that mountain so that you can take that picture to post it on Instagram so that you get more social credit, you're not going to enter flow state doing that, versus if your motivation was internal of, this is a challenge that I want to do to prove to myself that I have the mental and physical ability to summit this mountain. You know, to me, there's so many different motivations we can have to do the things we do. And when you find the things that are intrinsically motivating, you enter that flow state much more rapidly. And for guys like us, I think being in nature or outside like is a catalyst for that feeling.
Dude, I yes, yes. I had a view today that I loved so much, and it was just like from being in nature that like Emma was like, "Look, we got to go back down." I was like, "Start walking down. I'm gonna sit here and I'll just like we were just hiking, so I was like, I'll just run and catch up because like I could." And like it's not like the view was changing necessarily. I just like some like, and I can't even describe it. Something about the vast view of the Dolomites. I was just like, it put perspective around it. I'm like, I'm not important. You know what I mean? Like I'm this little guy and there's this like huge thing. And it just like, I don't know how to put it into words, but it's felt natural and calming. And it was a catalyst to just, not think about what's my next meal, what's my next meeting, what's the next thing I need to do. Just kind of like,
exactly. When's the last time you came out of the woods and were in a worse mood than when you went in?
dude,
It just doesn't happen.
I was thinking that today, like we were on the hiking trail, like deep in the mountains, beautiful sunny day this morning, early too, which I think that's an element, like waking up early because it shows that you have an optimistic view on the day and you're trying to go get the day. And like I'm just looking around, I was cracking up. I was like, Evan, like, what would you do if someone was just like walking around all grumpy, like like on a hiking trail? It's like it doesn't even make sense. Oh man.
I've heard that areas up above the tree line too, like I'm sure you've done some 14ers in your day. Um, they call that the God zone, right? I'm not a religious guy, but you do seem closer to source when you're in nature, especially at hard to get to places.
Yeah. Well, really beautiful topic here. Are you familiar with how people talk about that? The Big Island is like some of the most energy on the planet.
Yeah.
And so you're on an active volcano, which there's flowing lava. Last I was there, and it was recent. I think you'll be able to see it.
Yep.
You have a
Still
mountain,
amazing.
you have the ocean, right? You have exposed lava rock, lots of good energy there. But what like energy, like let's talk about it a little more specifically, right? You have vibrations in your body that get released, and they are very measurable nowadays
100%.
with technology. And when you're connected to things that like you can see, I really don't know how this works. But this was how it was explained to me. Like you're looking at the mountain, you're looking at the ocean, like you're connected to all this energy, and like the people are too. And I have found it's just the most calming atmosphere there. It is like I'm talking like calming of your nervous system. Like something bad will happen at work, horrible, and you just don't even care. Like I can't
Yeah.
explain it. Like
Yep.
it's just that you just focus on what's important, I would say.
I completely agree. That's been my experience since that first time we went to Hawaii. I think we've been back 4 times now, and we're going back in December. It's a draw, and it's all that vibrational energy. I've also heard some people move there and have really bad experience, and so I don't know that the energy necessarily aligns with everybody, but it certainly does resonate with Ann and I. It just it's something special. It's obviously very beautiful to look at, but I think it's deeper than that. There's just a part of Hawaiian culture to have that connection to the land that resonates pretty deep with us.
That's beautiful. I'll move out there for a few months when you guys are there so we can hang out and run
Please
and
do.
chill.
Yeah, we're
Because
definitely planning on getting places to rent that have enough space to have friends and family out, because friends and family is important. Even though we're moving 4,000 miles away from our, I guess, home connections, our familial connections, it doesn't mean it's not important to us.
Yeah. No, it's really an interesting one. I battle with it because I'm very, very close to my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my brother, my uncles, and um, I'm rarely in the country, and definitely rarely if I am east of the Rocky Mountains. I'm generally smack on them, but it hurts to not be there, but kind of like what you were saying in the beginning. Rob, who introduced us, is the one that really taught me this. I'll never forget this. I was it was late night. We were partying. It was me, Rob, and this guy Heath. And Rob was talking about, he has a full-time job, he has a kid, some of the external activities, extracurricular activities he's doing, all this stuff. And my buddy Heath goes like, how do you have time to, come out and party? And Rob's not a big partier, but Rob was like, sometimes you got to just like take care of yourself. And he said, if you aren't in the top condition, like, yourself, how can you give to others? Like, give your best. And I really took that to heart, because I really believe if I was home, I wouldn't be the best version of myself. I'd be there physically, but I don't think I'd be the best version of myself. And like, I also, this is a little tangent. I'd kick myself for not exploring certain areas, but that really is different. It's more about like in some way, Steve, like you moving away is you committing to your family even more, that like, I'm going to be the best version of myself. And every time we're together, you're going to feel that and see that. And in the meantime, I'm going to make, the most of not being together and,
Yeah.
calls, Zooms, whatever.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Sean. And I love that analogy of a cup, right? You have to fill your own cup. And then when it's overflowing, that's what you have to give to other people. So if one of our goals in life is to make an impact, our parents and family and loved ones should be proud that we're living our best lives, because it means that we're focused on adding value to other people, right? Making others happy as well. And if my kid decided to move 4,000 miles away, I'd be super proud of them, because if that meant they were following their dreams, I would be like, damn right, I taught them well.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. Well, Steve, I want to wrap this up with a question for you about the 240 that you want to set. When you look into, I'm glad this is the first time you kind of spoke about it. When like roughly are you looking to do this?
I would say fourth quarter of 2023.
It's a businessman right there. Quarter 4.
Yeah.
Quarter 4, 2023. Good timing. A little cooler on the island.
Yep.
It's gonna be beautiful. You're gonna get wet in Hilo. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Unsupported. So that means for those that don't know, you're gonna be running just you. There's gonna be no crew.
No crew. I believe I'll have to check the FKT website to make sure, but I believe I can have gear drops that I place myself. And I could also use any resource that's just readily available, like a convenience store or a restaurant. But I can't have a crew following me or anyone running with me.
Interesting. That cancels my third question out. Maybe I'll do it. I'll do it like simultaneously with you, 100 feet behind you.
Hey, if you want, we could try to break the FKT for the supported. That's 3 days, 17 hours, something like that. That'd be a hell of a jaunt.
Yeah. I said in the beginning, I know the whole trail. The only part I don't know is going to be just by like the green sand beaches down south, how close to the coast it is. I guess those roads, man, I'm just letting you know, you're going to see hogs, and these roads are small, windy roads with no footpath. You're just going to be on the road.
Yeah, well, I'll show you I'll send you a link and you could embed it in the show notes if you want. But the route I'm talking about is all, I believe, main roads that go, just the main outer roads that go around the island.
Yeah. It's like 140 or 240.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. Steve, you shared a lot of wisdom that you worked hard to gain, and I really appreciate that because you worked hard for it, and being able to share it with me, my listeners, means a lot. And if there's anything else that you want to end it with, feel free to. But I just want to thank you for hopping on.
Hey, thank you for having me. And I guess my last thing is, if there's something I said that resonated with even one person, then this was totally worth it. And I'm all about how do we create more impact and add as much value to others as possible. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. So yeah, if you want to know more about what I'm doing or my thought process, I'm sure Sean will put some contact information in the show notes. And yeah, thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. Steve, thank you, man. Let's connect on Hawaii and send him my love. Yeah. Be good,
All
dude.
right. See you, Sean.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.